What if I told you there's a game with a prize of $1 billion? The rules are brutally simple. Be the last person to leave this circle. But this isn't a game of who can stand the longest. It's a game for your mind. And you are already playing it, whether you know it or not. That $1 billion prize? It isn't a fantasy. It's a representation of what is possible when you understand the rules to the most important game in the world. The problem is, nobody tells you that you're a player. From the day you earn your first dollar, you are placed inside a circle. And 1,000 different forces are engineered to do one thing, to push you out. Today, we're not just going to learn the rules of the game. We are going to break down 10 of the most important circles in finance and business. For each one, the rule is the same. The last one to leave wins everything. We begin with the hardest circle of all, the one where more than 90% of players quit. This is the circle of entrepreneurial solitude. This is the brutal, lonely period of building a business before it's successful. It's the period where your effort is at its absolute maximum, but your results are zero. This is where the villain, the external noise, is at its loudest. Your friends and family tell you to get a real job.
You can't do it. Give up! You're not good enough.
Your bank account screams at you. Every headline you read is about someone else's success. The temptation to just step out of the circle is immense. But the winners, they know the secret. Just stay in. Consider the founders of Airbnb. In 2008, they were drowning in thousands of dollars of credit card debt. Their idea of renting air mattresses was a joke to Silicon Valley's top investors. The circle was closing in. They had every reason to leave. Instead, they did something insane. They designed custom cereal boxes called Obama O's and Captain McCain's, and they hand-blew them at their kitchen table to sell as collector's items. They made $30,000. It wasn't a business model. It was a refusal to leave the circle. That act of sheer will got them the attention of Y Combinator. The rest is history. They didn't have a brilliant product yet. They just had endurance. So what's the tactical blueprint for staying in this circle? It's 3 non-negotiable rules. 1. Redefine winning. For the first year, winning is not profit. Winning is survival. Your only goal is to live to fight another day. 2. Go on an information diet. Stop consuming the news of everyone else's success. Unfollow the fakers. Your reality is the only one that matters. Protect your psychology at all costs. And 3. This is the one that separates the amateurs from the architects. Forge your bedrock. Before you can build an empire, you must manually lay the first 100 stones. Obsess over your first 10 clients, learn their names, solve their problems personally. This manual, foundational work is what creates a base so strong that nothing can ever shake it. Now, moving from the world of entrepreneurship to the world of investing requires an even deeper level of discipline. And it's important to remember that the concepts we're about to discuss are purely for educational purposes, illustrating a specific strategic mindset. They are not financial advice. If you survive the brutal solitude of the first circle, you face a new, more seductive enemy. This is not an enemy of hardship, but of temptation. Welcome to the circle of deliberate boredom. This is the circle of sticking to a simple, effective, but boring strategy, while the entire world is chasing shiny objects. In the world of investing, this is the ultimate test of your character. The external noise tells you you're a fool, that you're missing out. It tempts you to leave the proven, boring path for the exciting gamble. But the wealthiest investors in history became masters of winning this specific game. Wall Street is a machine designed to make you act. But wealth isn't built on action. It's built on patience. The game is rigged to transfer money from the impatient to the one who can withstand the soul-crushing boredom of a good decision. In the 1960s, a crisis hit one of America's most trusted companies, American Express. A client had defaulted in the salad oil scandal. The company's stock was in freefall. Wall Street was convinced it was going bankrupt. Everyone was screaming and leaving the circle.
Run! Run for your lives! This way, quick! We have to escape!
But a young investor named Warren Buffett decided to ignore the carnival of fear. He didn't read the headlines. He did the most boring work imaginable. He went to restaurants. He stood in line at banks. He talked to merchants, asking them a simple question. Were people still using their services? The answer, everywhere, was yes. He realized the scandal was a headline, but the business itself was a fortress. While Wall Street was panicking, Buffett stayed in the circle of boring fundamental research. He then made a significant investment, allocating a large portion of his fund to the stock. His thesis proved correct. As the fear subsided, the company's strength became clear again. He won, not by gambling, but by replacing panic with a patient, methodical process. The blueprint for winning this circle is a masterclass in discipline. 1. Automate the principle of consistency. The core principle is to make wealth building systematic, not emotional. For many, this is put into practice through automated recurring investments into broad, diversified assets. A strategy that makes consistency your default setting. 2. Build an anti-shiny defense. When you hear about a hot new trend, the master strategist's question is simple. Is this aligned with my established, long-term plan? If the answer is no, it is dismissed without a second thought. This isn't missing out. It's the execution of a winning discipline. Surviving the chaos of the beginning and the temptation of boredom earns you the right to enter the next circle. But this circle is guarded by a powerful villain, the seductive pressure to be merely good enough. This is the circle of overwhelming value. In a world that is obsessed with speed, automation, and scale, this is the circle of doing the impossible. It's about delivering a level of service and quality so shockingly good, it feels like a violation of the rules of business. The external noise tells you to cut corners, to automate your customer relationships. It wants you to treat people like numbers on a spreadsheet, because it's more efficient. Leaving this circle means becoming just another commodity. Winning means becoming a legend. Anyone can build a transaction. That's easy. But a legend builds a relationship. In the beginning, your most powerful marketing is not an ad. It is a single, ridiculously happy customer. You win by creating a story they cannot wait to tell. The absolute master of this circle was Tony Xia, the late CEO of Zappos. In the early days of e-commerce, customer service was an afterthought, a cost to be minimized. Xi saw it as the entire business. He stayed in the circle of overwhelming value while everyone else was racing to the bottom. Zappos' call center wasn't timed for efficiency. It was empowered for legendary service. Their longest customer service call lasted over 10 hours. When a customer's desired shoe was out of stock, employees were trained to find it on a competitor's website and direct the customer there. This was commercial insanity. It was also the bedrock that built a billion-dollar company. They weren't selling shoes, they were delivering happiness. They won by creating an experience so valuable that price became irrelevant. The blueprint here is about building a fortress of goodwill. 1. Master the first 100 principle. Your only mission is to make your first 100 customers so happy they become a volunteer marketing army. Know their names, send them handwritten notes. 2. Engineer for generosity, not scarcity. Look at every point of contact with your customer or employer and ask, how can I add 10 times more value than anyone else expects here? Whether it's a free bonus, a faster-than-promised delivery, or simply your undivided attention. This is how you build a moat of loyalty around your business that no competitor can cross. Once you build your fortress of value, you will be presented with 1,000 new opportunities, 1,000 new markets, 1,000 new ideas, and you will be tempted to say yes to all of them. This is where you enter the most intellectually demanding circle of all. This is the circle of strategic ignorance. This is not about being uninformed. It is about the deliberate, disciplined choice to ignore 99% of what's happening, to become an absolute master of the 1% that truly matters. The great villain here is FOMO, the fear of missing out. It's the belief that to be successful, you must have an opinion on everything, and an investment in everything. The undisputed master of this domain is Warren Buffett, but not for the reason you think. His greatest genius is not what he buys, it is what he so masterfully ignores. In the late 1990s, the entire world was stampeding into the dot-com bubble. Technology stocks were doubling every week. The external noise was a deafening roar. Anyone who sat on the sidelines was called an old, out-of-touch fool. But Buffett simply stated that he did not understand the business models. They were outside his, quote, circle of competence, so he did nothing. He stayed in the circle of strategic ignorance. When the bubble inevitably burst in the year 2000, trillions of dollars of speculative wealth were vaporized. Those who chased the noise were wiped out. Buffett, safe inside his circle, was unharmed, ready to deploy his capital. He won by having the courage to say, I don't know, and the discipline to ignore the biggest party of the decade. The blueprint for this is a masterclass in focus. 1. Define your circle. You must write down, with brutal honesty, the industries, skills, and business models you are willing to spend 10,000 hours to truly understand. 2. Use an ignorance filter. When a new opportunity appears, your first question is not, how much money can I make? It is this inside my defined circle? If the answer is no, you do not spend 1 second of mental energy on it. This discipline is the source of all mastery. If you can master the discipline of ignoring the noise, you earn the right to enter a circle of pure power. This is not about what you do, it's about what you refuse to do. This is the circle of saying no. Once you achieve any level of success, the world will try to drown you in opportunity. Most of it is a distraction in disguise. The external noise tells you that more activity equals more success. Leaving this circle means being pulled in 1,000 directions, accomplishing nothing. Winning this game requires you to become a ruthless editor of your own life. Amateurs think success is about saying yes to the right opportunity. Masters know it's about saying no to the 99 good opportunities. To protect their energy for the one that is truly great. Your no is your most powerful strategic weapon. Steve Jobs understood this weapon upon his return to Apple in 1997. Apple was weeks from bankruptcy. It was producing dozens of different products, printers, scanners, multiple confusing lines of computers. The company was trying to do everything, and it was failing at everything. Jobs' first action was not to add, but to subtract. In a legendary meeting, he took a marker and drew a simple 4-quadrant box on a whiteboard. He declared that Apple would cancel over 70% of its products and focus on making just one world-class product for each of those 4 boxes. His team was shocked. They were saying no to existing revenue. But Jobs knew that to win, Apple had to stop chasing everything. He stayed in the circle of saying no, and in doing so, he saved the company and architected the greatest corporate comeback in history. The blueprint is simple, but not easy. 1. Run every opportunity through a hell yes or no filter. If an opportunity doesn't make you say, hell yes, this is what I should be doing, then the answer is an immediate, guilt-free no. But the ability to say no is useless if you don't know what you should be saying yes to. Focus is a weapon, but a weapon is useless without a map to the destination. Each of these circles we've discussed is a game you have to win, but they are not random. They are sequential stages in a much larger journey. Understanding this journey is the single most important part of winning the entire game. That is why I wrote Levels of Wealth. It is the strategic guide that lays out this entire journey. The 7 distinct levels from financial dependency to true financial freedom. The circles we're talking about today are the battles you must fight to graduate from one level to the next. For anyone who is serious about not just surviving the game, but mastering it, you can scan the code on the screen to get the complete blueprint on Amazon. For faster and often cheaper shipping, you can order from your local Amazon by simply changing the .com in the URL to your country's domain, like .in for India or co.uk for the United Kingdom. Now, let's get back to the circles, because the next one is the longest and most psychologically taxing of all. Once you have your map and you've mastered the art of focus, you face the longest and most psychologically taxing circle of all. This is not a test of your intelligence or your skill. It is a brutal test of your faith in the process. This is the circle of the first 1,000 days. This represents the brutal starting phase of any long-term investment or meaningful project. It's the period, roughly 3 years, where your effort is massive, but your results are almost invisible. You are watering the sapling every single day, but it feels like nothing is growing. The villain here is your own biology. Your brain is hardwired to expect a reward proportionate to your effort. When that reward doesn't come, your brain screams at you to quit and find an easier source of dopamine. This is the circle that crushes more investors than any market crash. Look at the history of Amazon. After its IPO, Amazon stock soared with the .com mania. But when the bubble burst, the market's faith shattered completely. The company was famously labeled Amazon.bomb by analysts. Its stock price collapsed by over 90%. For nearly 3 years, for over 1,000 days, the company's value was decimated. Almost everyone left the circle. Investors, employees, the media, they all declared it dead. But Bezos stayed in. He ignored the stock price and focused on one thing: building the underlying business. He knew the sapling was growing roots where no one could see them. He survived the first 1,000 days, and that endurance built the most dominant company of the 21st century. The blueprint for this circle is a psychological survival guide. 1. Worship the process, not the outcome. You must fall in love with the boring, repetitive actions, the saving, the investing, the building. Your reward isn't the daily stock price. It's the satisfaction of executing your plan perfectly. 2. Build a time telescope. When you feel impatient, you must mentally zoom out. Look at a 20-year chart, not a one-day chart. Read a biography of someone who took years to succeed. Remind your impatient brain that you are not running a sprint. You are playing an infinite game. If you can endure the psychological marathon of the first 1,000 days, you unlock a new level of perception. You are no longer just a participant following the path. You are a strategist who can see the entire map. Now you enter a circle of calculated courage. This is the circle of asymmetric bets. This is the game of finding opportunities where the potential upside is 100 times larger than the potential downside. The external noise tells you to seek safe and certain paths, which offer low risk but also low reward. But the masters of the game understand that true safety comes from finding a single bet where you can lose a little, but win a fortune. This principle was demonstrated on a global scale in the years leading up to the 2008 financial crisis. While the entire world was celebrating a booming housing market, a small handful of investors stayed in their own circle of deep, contrarian research. They discovered that the foundation of the global financial system was a ticking time bomb, a bomb built on bad debt. They made a massive asymmetric bet against it. Their potential loss was limited to the premiums they paid, but their potential gain was almost infinite. They were ridiculed. They were called fools for betting against the market, but they stayed in the circle, trusting their research while the world partied on. When the system collapsed, they were the last ones standing. The blueprint isn't about predicting a crash. It is a mental model for assessing all opportunity. 1. Find limited downside, unlimited upside. Look for opportunities where you can risk a small amount of time or money for a potentially life-changing return. Starting a side project, learning a new skill, a small, calculated angel investment. These are the calculated bets that create real wealth, not by avoiding failure, but by ensuring that your wins are exponentially more powerful than your losses. But to even see these asymmetric opportunities, you must first possess a rare skill in a world obsessed with shortcuts. You must be willing to pay a price that most people are not. You must enter the circle of the apprentice. This is the circle of prioritizing deep, foundational learning over the instant gratification of earning. The external noise screams at you to get the highest paying job, the most prestigious title, the fastest promotion. It tempts you to leave the circle of deep learning for a bigger paycheck. But the greatest masters in history knew that the knowledge you gain is an asset that can never be taken away from you. Consider the ultimate apprentice, Leonardo da Vinci. For over a decade, one of the greatest minds in human history was a student, an assistant. He stayed in the circle of learning, while others chased fame and commissions. That decade of deep, foundational work is what allowed him to see the connections no one else could. It allowed him to become not just a painter, but a master of art, science, and invention. He built a foundation so deep it lasted for centuries and changed the course of human history. The blueprint for this is a career super strategy. 1. Maximize your learning rate. When choosing a job or project, your primary question should not be, what will I earn? It must be, what will my learning rate be here? The skills you acquire in your teenage and 20s are infinitely more valuable than a small bump in salary. You are not just working, you are forging the intellectual weapons you will use for the rest of your life. Once you have forged your skills and mastered your craft, you must learn to protect your success from your own worst enemy, yourself. You now enter the most counterintuitive circle of all. This is the circle of the anti-portfolio. This is the game of focusing not on achieving brilliance, but on ruthlessly avoiding stupidity. The external noise and your own internal wiring is obsessed with finding the next big thing. It pushes you to make complex, brilliant moves to try and win. But the masters know that most big gains come from simply not having any catastrophic losses. Charlie Munger, the billionaire business partner of Warren Buffett, built his entire philosophy on this principle. He calls it inversion. Instead of asking, how can I succeed? Munger always asks, how could I fail? He identifies all the potential ways to lose the game, and then he simply avoids them. He doesn't try to build a portfolio of brilliant ideas. He starts by building an anti-portfolio. He wins by sidestepping the landmines that blow everyone else up. The blueprint for this is a world-class decision-making tool used by championship-winning sports teams and special forces operators. It's called a pre-mortem. Before making any big decision, you gather your team, and you imagine a future where the project has catastrophically failed. You then spend the next hour writing down every single reason, no matter how small, that could have led to that failure. You identify all the potential points of failure, and then you build a plan to prevent them from ever happening. This is how you win. Not by being a genius, but by being the one who is pathologically prepared to not be a fool. And so we arrive at the final circle, the one that requires the purest form of will in the modern world. This is not a circle of action, but of deep, uninterrupted creation. This is the circle of silent work. This is the circle of detaching your work from the need for external validation. In the age of social media, we are addicted to immediate feedback. The villain is the dopamine hit of likes, shares, and public applause. It tempts you to work on things that look good now, rather than things that will be great later. The master of this silent work was James Dyson. Before he sold a single vacuum cleaner, he spent 5 years in a workshop behind his house. For 5 years, he had no applause, no validation, no income, building 5,127 failed prototypes. Just a mountain of failed experiments. He stayed in the circle of silent work, driven only by his own conviction. That singular focus is what allowed him to create a product so revolutionary it built a multi-billion-dollar empire. He won because his validation came from the work itself, not the world's opinion of it. The entrepreneur's circle, the circle of boredom, the circle of saying no. 10 circles, 10 games, but the secret, by now, is clear. The game of building wealth was never about being the smartest person in the room. It was never about a secret stock tip or a get-rich-quick scheme. It was never a race. It was always a game of attrition. The prize was never the $1 billion. That was just a symbol. The real prize is the person you had to become to win. The disciplined, patient, strategic, and resilient master of your own mind. The real prize is the freedom. The rule was always the same. You don't win by being the fastest. You win by being the last one standing. If you want to master more of the hidden rules to the game of finance, you'll definitely want to check out the videos appearing on your screen now. And if this video gave you the framework to stay in your circle, subscribe for more videos that deconstruct the path to true financial freedom. Thanks for watching.